Boy, there's hardly anything that makes me feel more back than the presence of children here with us. And welcome to Otto, and also his mom and grandma here on the front row. So let's talk about comfort zones. This has been a time when we've been pushed out of our comfort zones in so many ways. And here we are back in what for so many of us is a comfort zone. It's really wonderful to have a place where you feel comfortable and at home and accepted as you are around like-minded people, as Dana Worsnop said. Now, it was nearly 40 years ago when I reluctantly accepted a friend's invitation to attend a Unitarian Universalist fellowship. I had been invited a number of times by, well, it was my boyfriend. I had been invited repeatedly and said, church, are you kidding? No, thanks. I've given up on church. It's been too long for me and too much water under the bridge. Well, I finally attended that Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Topeka, Kansas, and I remember that feeling of being at home that very first Sunday. Like, at last I've found my peeps, my place, my comfort zone. There's no substitute for that feeling, and I know that a number of you have also experienced that feeling, either when you come to a UU congregation, when you come back after a long absence, or even if you were raised Unitarian Universalist, when you've been battered by the storms through the week and you come into your congregation on a Sunday that, I'm home. And it's not just like the organic, fairly traded coffee that we serve, or the restrooms that don't conform to the gender binary, or the composting of food scraps, or the solar panels on the roof. They don't hurt, I must say, but there's something else. There's a warmth in this community and an openness, a curiosity about other people and about ideas that creates this at-homeness, this comfort zone feeling. And especially in these times where things are so confusing and stressful, it's important to have that comfort zone and be able to get grounded. It's been a really good thing for the 9 new members we will welcome here shortly in our new member welcome ritual. So for anyone who is being welcomed today or who might be considering membership, let me say something about a comfort zone. In that zone of complete comfort, not a whole lot goes on, really. Not a lot happens. So picture, if you will, being out in the ocean. You're playing around, perhaps you're out in the waves, maybe boogie boarding. You can feel the currents pulling your body back and forth. And sometimes you get kind of hammered by those waves, or you're fighting a rip tide. Anybody ever done that? Or you're on your boogie board and the wave takes the tip of that boogie board down and boom, you're going head over heels. Now, it's so nice to make it back into the shallow water and just stand there for a while and get your bearings, get grounded again. Sometimes this place as a comfort zone is that kind of a place where we get buffeted around by whatever during the week, and we can come here and stand in a safe place, in a grounding place. But seen with this metaphor in mind, a comfort zone is the shallow end of the pool. It's great for a novice swimmer or for getting grounded or to take a rest when you're weary, but you know, the shallow end, the comfort zone in that big pool can be kind of a stagnant place. Have you ever seen it when the ocean forms a sandbar and the tide goes out but leaves that little warm tidal pool where, you know, there's life, but in terms of movement, there's not a lot going on. So the Unitarian Universalist Association, our organizing group, we call it the UUA. The association has had for years a vision statement that Unitarian Universalists are called to aspire to. And I'll just read you a little quote from that. They say, "We should work towards a healthy community that is alive with transforming power." I really like that image. Not stagnant, but a community that is alive with transforming power. Now that conjures up for me images of moving out of that shallow end, starting to feel those currents again, maybe even pushing back against you a little bit, maybe starting to swim a little bit. You're making some progress. Swimming takes a whole lot more effort than hanging out in that comfort zone of the shallow end. Swimming, really, truth be told, takes some practice. You got to practice. I know we have some swimmers who regularly swim, regularly practice that here. And to be efficient and move through the water, it takes some practice. And have you ever been swimming, especially in the ocean, you swim out a little too far out of your comfort zone, you realize your toes are nowhere near scraping the bottom. Whoo! In a healthy community alive with transforming power, what should happen is that instead of thrashing, you reach out your hand and you find somebody else who's solidly in enough control that they can help you find your way back to that healthy community, that place where you can stay alive with transforming power. It's okay, buddy, I got you. That's a kind of comfort zone too, even though it's not always in the shallows. There's a lot of transformation that happens when you're over your head. Sometimes you need to depend on other people as you learn those new skills and practice your strategies. Well, I hope you've gotten in the metaphorical pool with me, even though we don't have a baptistry anywhere here. We don't even have a pool in the backyard. But if you've got that image going, I wonder if you would come on an imaginative journey, just a little one with me, and gauge where you are in the waters of this community. You might be sitting on a lounge chair, just kind of watching the fun. That's okay. You might be on the diving board, ready to plunge, ready to dive right into the deep end, or stroking out in the middle somewhere, practicing, or holding up somebody who was struggling, or maybe you're feeling grateful for a hand that's holding you up, or even getting grounded again. You're back in your comfort zone in the shallows. That's okay. It's all good. Here's the thing. In this pool that is the fellowship, we are all practicing. We were swimming and splashing and diving and building up skills and strategy to move our congregations and the world towards greater love and justice and peace. That's actually a quote from the UUA's vision statement too, to move our congregations and the world toward greater love and justice and peace, and actively counter systems of power, privilege, and oppression. That's something we've been about for some time now. Because I think the UUA knows that if we aren't practicing that stuff in this pool, in this congregation, we're unlikely to take that transformative living power out into the world very far. If I see somebody thrashing and just kind of look the other way, or just get stuck in the shallows hanging out in my own comfort zone, it's tough to work towards a healthy community that can really work towards transforming the world. So here in this fellowship, the thing that can take us out of our comfort zones into a transformative place is what Miss Kayla mentioned, a covenant, an agreement between us. We have a covenant of membership. All the new members you will shortly meet have signed a covenant of membership. We have a congregational covenant that you can find on our website. The board has its own covenant. Every classroom down the religious exploration hallway takes time to make a covenant, a set of agreements, promises about how we'll be together while we're doing this practice. So in our congregational covenant, and I won't read it, but I will say in part, we promise to create a safe environment by respecting and trusting one another. Create a safe environment, that sounds good. Care for each other through deep listening and genuine kindness and assuming good intentions. Now that's tough if you've had your toes stepped on or just missed that hand when you were thrashing around. Assuming good intentions. It's part of the promise we make to each other. And to encourage each other to express our authentic selves. And we promise to welcome and nurture diversity. We promise to give of our time, talent, and financial resources in order to sustain and strengthen the fellowship. Now, some of you knew the late, great Jim Key. He was a lay leader of excellent caliber in this southern region. And he said, "You are welcome to be a casual customer of this congregation without entering into a covenant. But if you wish to walk together in love, to make this world a better place with more love, more justice, and more peace, we invite you to enter into a covenantal relationship with us." We make the great invitation many of you have accepted. And we don't expect perfect adherence. There's not a grade card you're going to be handed at the end of the year. Sometimes you're going to say a crossword to somebody, get crossed up, forget to keep up with your pledge of financial commitment, get caught up in some kind of a gossipy triangle. It happens. It's okay to miss the mark. If you're thrashing out a bit, remember to reach out and find a strong hand nearby. Somebody that can help you get gently guided back into the stream of that covenant, that agreement, that promise that we make. Today we are honored to welcome 9 new members into covenantal community so that our fellowship will be alive with transforming power and that we will ultimately change the world. It's a bold claim, and we make it knowing that it is possible within our grasp. And as important as it is to find a comfort zone and at last, I'm home, we don't want our members to stay there in the comfort zone forever. Dana Worsnup wrote that piece about comfort zones full of like-minded people. Vivian read it as a call to worship. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. May we be called again and again to the promises that hold our beloved community together.